Joining us now via Skype from Detroit is Rochelle Riley, columnist for the Detroit Free Press. They are one of the two daily papers in Detroit that has called for Congressman John Conyers to resign. Rochelle, first off, how is this story playing in Detroit, especially among African Americans? Clearly, as Nancy Pelosi said, he's an icon, not only in Detroit, but also across the country.
Well, among readers and people out in the community, there are calls for fairness and investigation. We got a lot of reader letters after our editorial board called for his resignation, saying that he's entitled to the same due process as anyone else. And I think that if we're going to have an atmosphere of zero tolerance, we have to be able to investigate every allegation that comes forth, even if it's someone with a long time record in Washington.
And so your paper calling for his resignation, do you agree with their assessment, or was that too soon?
Well, I can speak for my column. My column, which called for zero tolerance, calls for us to investigate all of these instances. Let's look at some context. Donald Trump admitted to grabbing women's vaginas. Harvey Weinstein apologized and then went away. Kevin Spacey apologized and then went away. Louis C.K. apologized and was lauded for his honesty. Al Franken apologized and said he's going to keep his seat or work to keep his seat. And Roy Moore admitted to asking some mothers for permission to date their daughters. And by the way, if you have to ask permission, it's not a date. It's rape, and his day is coming. So what we have now is a congressman who's been accused and has denied it. And there's an ethics investigation. He did what he should do now, which is rightly step down from judiciary, because he shouldn't be connected to any law enforcement committee. I feel it's the same thing that Donald Trump should do while he's being investigated. He's being investigated for Russiagate and not being investigated for his admission of sexually harassing women, and yet he still gets to do his job. So I think that when we're talking about people's lives, we're talking about possible criminal charges, we're talking about something as serious as sexual harassment, abuse, or rape, then you have to make sure that there's due process.
This is also complicated by the fact that you have Michigan Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who, in the wake of Roy Moore, came out very aggressively when it came to the issue of sexual harassment on Capitol Hill. She's from the same delegation as Congressman John Conyers.
She is, and she also has a staffer who resigned because he was accused. So here's what's going to happen. The walls are already tumbling down, as I wrote in my column, and people are coming out in droves to talk about this. And the front page of my New York Times this morning is calling for a look at how many other deals there are, like the one that John Conyers is alleged to have made with a staffer who had a complaint, taking taxpayer money and paying them in secret, whether you call it restitution or whether you call it severance. How many other deals are there like that? How many other people are there going to be? Will we have a Congress without sexual allegations by the time we get done? I think that it is very important that everybody who has been harassed have the opportunity to claim that, but I think it's time to move past Me Too and now let's take action.
Lauren.
You know, don't you think, Ms. Riley, that basically this has been punishment first and investigation second, and really by the standards of the editorial in the Detroit Free Press, shouldn't Rick Snyder resign? I mean, there was a scandal over the Flint water crisis. He was involved in it. Shouldn't we have him resign and then have an investigation?
Well, I can tell you again, the editorial board and our news department are two separate entities, church and state. I can speak for our news department and my own column, in which I've not only called for Rick Snyder to resign, but called for criminal charges to be filed against him. I think that what you have is people who are so outraged by this atmosphere that women have had to endure for so long that, you know, a lot of people are out for blood. But there must be due process. There must be fair assessment of all behaviors. That means stop comparing everybody to Roy Moore. There is no comparison to Roy Moore. You have to look at each case, which is why investigation is necessary. So, yeah, I think that there are plenty of people who should not be doing what they're doing, which means having any position of power because of the things they've done.
Malik?
No, I think she's spot on. Get all the facts, and what you said was so critical. Let's stop comparing everybody to Roy Moore. Each case has its own unique set of details, its own unique set of facts. But more importantly, let's make sure that zero tolerance also includes due process.
Eugene?
In the event that that more deals are revealed to come to light that we're hearing about in the BuzzFeed article, what does due process look like if that was the process that was in place in which these settlements came to be?
It looks like both sides airing what happened, which did not happen. Conyers has still not said exactly what happened, and we don't know the details of a redacted affidavit that nobody has seen, other than, I guess, Mike Cernovich.
The better framing of my question is, do we put this through a whole new separate process if it's already been through one process?
Well, right now, the process that is in place now, of course, is ridiculous. I mean, that congressional office is completely ridiculous. Why, if somebody, this is what I understand too, if somebody is harassing you, whether it's sexual or not, why aren't you reporting it to the U.S. Capitol Police? They would be more than happy to take down the details, to paper it, and to investigate. And it doesn't matter if you're an intern, a fellow, or a staffer. That office is ridiculously set up. It should be blown up, I get that. But it doesn't allow for the accused to say anything, and obviously it's not an admission of guilt to have a settlement. Everybody knows that in legal, you know, whether it's outside or inside the Capitol, an admission of guilt and a settlement is two different things.
If I may just jump in a second, what I want to do is get back to that question, because that is the bigger question. When this ethics investigation goes beyond John Conyers and goes to every single deal like this one, and reportedly there may be lots of others, and goes to every allegation, it's almost as if Washington, D.C. has become the Hollywood of the East Coast, where all of these women felt like they could not work in these seats of power if they did tell about what was going on and what this atmosphere was like. And just like all these actresses in Hollywood are now speaking out, it's time for every woman on the Hill who feels she can to talk about this, and not just to each other and not just to the cameras, but to authorities who can do something about it and change the culture and change the office and change the policy.
What's next? First, and not only that, first of all, Rochelle, these ethics investigations take, let's just say, a very long time. Do you believe that Congressman John Conyers will decide that enough is enough and he won't run for re-election? Because every House member will be up for re-election in 2018.
I can tell you that I don't think there's anything that will make John Conyers resign besides being forced to. But I can also tell you that he has that right under due process until they are able to say this is what happened. But I will also tell you that what historically has been true doesn't have to be true in this case. The very soul of the Democratic Party is now at stake, as we have watched them flounder from last November till now, still in shock over the election. And if they don't handle this quickly so that they separate themselves from the Roy Moore Party, then they're no better than the Roy Moore Party.
Well, clearly, if we have zero tolerance, shouldn't all the files come out? I would think that if Nancy Pelosi believes in zero tolerance on these cases, then all the files should come out. Why would just John Conyers' file be out?
It should be that simple. She could call for that tomorrow. She could call for it today, but you know, Nancy has to sleep on things. But she can call for that tomorrow, and make all of this public and make this ethics investigation larger, because they know that it's larger, and show people that they're the party of, you know, new honesty and the party that will make itself better than it has been in the past.
Rachelle Riley, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Always.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.